Hi there, it's Kathy again. My goal is always to help you to help yourself and your family with useful and practical information. Information that's driven by facts, expertise, and objectivity. So, let's take a few minutes here and dive in. Nothing happens in isolation. I'm going to make a case for integrated thinking and action as we move toward 2030, which will be a tipping point. It's not about one trend at a time, but how these trends are connected. The only way to truly understand what's going on globally with the transformation and understand the impact is to look at it as an interplay between a range of forces that are going to converge, that are right now. They may seem separate, they may seem like they're things that we can have control over, but they're all being governed by a much higher force than any of us, to a tipping point of 2030 where we will be into a new way of living. The world is not changing in a straight line, but one trend at a time. Instead, it's multiple forces: demographics, technology, economic, environmental, cultural. They're colliding with, and it's accelerating. And to truly understand, we have to stop looking at these issues in isolations and start connecting the dots. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about integrated thinking, because it'll give you an idea of what lies ahead. By 2030, we'll reach this tipping point. A convergence of global, not just this country, forces that'll reshape aging, healthcare, workforce, and the economy. Pay attention and know that the past is not returning, but the future is not that far off. It is recognizing, we as individuals, that right now it's unfolding. So let's look at 4 areas here as we move from 2025 to 2026 and toward 2030. First, let's remember and recognize that the past is over. For decades, maybe we assumed stability was permanent. Well, families once lived close together and supported one another. Pensions provided guaranteed income in a retirement. Doctors ran independent practices and were available and affordable. Hospitals kept patients until they were fully recovered and then discharged home. Your retirement meant a secure, restful, kind of trajectory through your last chapter of life. But these assumptions no longer hold. The birth rates have fallen, life expectancy has risen. This creates a rapidly aging population worldwide. Families are scattered and disconnected. Public resources for elders are strained. Secure pensions have been replaced by individual retirement accounts. This shifts the risk from institutions to you, the individual. This linear life of school, work, retirement, and then rest is gone. We no longer live a linear life. We live more of a cyclical life. Yet I continue to see strikes, protests, nostalgia that show how many people still cling tightly to a model that's no longer valid. The sooner you can accept that the past is over and not coming back, the sooner you can adapt. So the future is really now. Changes once forecasted as future trends are here. Population aging has created a world with more grandparents than grandchildren. Fertility decline, maybe accelerated by the pandemic, has left labor shortages in many countries. And immigration is essential for rebalancing country economies, especially as foreign-born workers already form the backbone of our elder care and aging systems worldwide. Immigration is necessary. Healthcare itself is collapsing under outdated business models. I can tell you I've worked with many, and I rarely see a functional business model with two exceptions. While medical advances allow longer lives, they also mean that we have more chronic illnesses, cognitive decline, and financial stress. People are afraid more about living their money than developing a terminal disease. Acute care systems, such as hospitals, designed for short-term fixes, now face an impossible task to manage lifelong conditions. They are not designed that way. That's why we're having trouble. Providers, hospitals, physicians leave insurance-based systems in search of sustainability, while patients are left with a transactional care, da-ding, da-ding, focused on profit rather than healing. Meanwhile, climate change adds fuel to the crisis. Rising heat, pollution, and infectious disease strain already weakened systems. Hospital close, nursing homes shrink, and care increasingly shifts back to home and community without adequate support. Technology, once a promise of freedom, now cuts both ways. Robotics and automation and artificial intelligence, also known as AI, replace jobs across all industries, eroding career stability for younger workers, just as older workers struggle to retrain. These same technologies are our only hope in filling massive gaps that exist, such as AI, robotics, monitoring tools, actually become essential for supporting older populations. Know that the future isn't coming, it has arrived. We are living the reset now. Contrary to pretending that none of this exists or diminishing looking at numbers that are telling the truth, we need to pay attention. Ignoring the problem, pretending it doesn't exist, is not a strategy. So let's look toward 2030, the convergence. By the end of this decade, a little more than 5 years from now? A little more than 5 years? Multiple megatrends converge that we're talking about. Population aging, economic fragility and collapse, automation, and healthcare strain. These are not separate issues. They are part of a single interconnected system moving toward this tipping point. Let's look at economic fragility for a minute. Decades of overspending, tax cuts without balance, cutting spending without looking how we're going to pay for things, and the opposite is just as bad. And a reliance on fiat currency find governments with limited ability to bail out these collapsing systems. In short, the well is dry. Let's look at retirement. Instead of retiring, many older adults, myself included, are reinventing, working part-time, starting businesses, projects, and demanding recognition as a powerful consumer segment. Those of us over 60 hold the majority of wealth in this country, and we will increasingly use it to shape markets, politics, and culture. You betcha. We need technology. Let's look at that. Robots, AI. It's not just about replacing work or workers, but supplementing tasks, supplementing caregivers, education, companionship. Nations that resist technological integration are falling behind. Just look at the difference between this country and China. Let's look at elderhood. Just as childhood transitions into elderhood around 18 to 20, adulthood now must prepare for elderhood in your 60s sometimes. Without planning financially, medically, or socially, the crisis will deepen on a personal level. So by 2030, people over 60 will be the largest consumer market globally. Know that these shifts aren't isolated. Older people, aging itself, feeds into healthcare demand. Healthcare costs strain government resources. Governments push more privatization. Privatization pushes more individuals to rely on technology, which itself reshapes work and care. Privatization also focuses on profits over the very services that are provided. Each force intensifies the other until the systems break or they evolve. So, what do we do? How do we prepare for this age? Growing older is not simply about adding years. It's entering a new stage of life, a new chapter that requires deliberate, focused preparation and reinvention. The old language of decline, non-productivity, and all those other words are now being replaced with frameworks of contributing, innovation, adaptation. So as we go forward, let's think about rebalancing our population. In any country, legal immigration we start to stop looking at legal immigration as a burden, but more as a lifeline to balance labor shortages and offset population aging trends. Next, let's look at the world of work. Now, this one's already underway. From shorter work weeks to gig platforms, the path forward is flexible work that sustains cash flow and purpose beyond traditional retirement ages. Next, don't run from technology or be afraid of technology. Integrate it into your world. Those of us who use AI, digital tools, will continue to be able to pivot or, change, reinvent as we go through these next 5 years. And as healthcare comes home, as it returns to communities aided by virtual hospitals, home-based technologies, and new models of support, learn to adapt. This is a big one. We are not ready for this. We do not have the community infrastructure yet, although many of us are working to build that. Finally, awaken as a consumer. Brands have to recognize that the 60-plus demographic is the most powerful market force. As older adults, we are not retreating. We are demanding products, services, and communities to match our own energy and longevity. We are pushing for smaller governments and resources that are more focused on where we live, our community. As governmental capacity shrinks, local networks, nonprofits, and private innovation do step in. And there is a big difference between private innovation and private equity. That's another video. Aging hubs are coming up in communities for guidance, preparation, and community-based services, and these will be essential. So we all need an integrated action plan for an interdependent world. Know the past is gone and the future is here. By 2030, the convergence of the demographic, economic, healthcare, and technological shifts today reach their tipping point. Nothing happens in isolation. So stop thinking in silos, and holding on to the past that's already gone. The case for integrated thinking, your own, you have something to contribute, is urgent. Know that decisions we're making today in policy, business, healthcare ripples across the systems. So the only way forward now is to act with your own awareness. Think, if I've done anything to kind of jolt you to say, wow, okay, this is real. You can enter 2030 not as a moment of collapse and fear, but as the beginning of a rebalanced and reimagined age. So thank you for listening to this little update. If you enjoyed it, please like it and share with others, and there will be more of this as we move through the next 5 years.